If you've been riding for decades, you remember when Honda and Harley went head-to-head for long-distance riders. Well, Honda may have just reopened that battle at EICMA, their newest Gold Wing announcement, focused on real touring comfort, cooler running temperatures, smoother balance at low speeds, and long-haul ergonomics that feel straight out of the old iron butt era. These are the things veteran riders care about, not the showroom gloss. And here's the warning shot. Harley's entire touring identity relies on riders choosing heritage over engineering. But if Honda now offers both, that's a threat Milwaukee can't ignore. Stay with me until the end. You need to hear what this means for real riders. The moment the curtain dropped. The moment the cover lifted at the show in Milan, the entire hall changed. The newest Honda Goldwing stood on the platform under white lights, and the crowd did something rare at a modern motorcycle reveal. They went quiet. It was not the kind of silence that comes from confusion or indifference. It was the kind of stillness that happens when riders recognize that a line has been crossed. The shape of the fairing, the stance of the chassis, and the weight distribution hinted at something far more deliberate than a routine refresh. What Honda placed on that stage was a direct message to every long-distance rider who has spent decades trusting heavyweight American touring machines. The bodywork looked refined in a way that spoke to wind stability rather than flash. The seating layout suggested hours of comfort instead of showroom posing. Even from a distance, riders could tell that this machine was built with purpose. Conversations broke out in every direction as riders debated what Honda intended to do. Some whispered that the Goldwing looked ready to reclaim territory it once dominated. Others admitted the design felt like a calculated strike at Milwaukee's pride. The curtain had barely settled on the floor when word started spreading through the aisles. Something significant had just happened, and everyone knew it. And the shock deepened once Honda explained its intentions. Honda's quiet declaration of war. Behind the stage, Honda representatives spoke with a calm confidence that contrasted sharply with the rumble on the showroom floor. There were no loud boasts, no desperate marketing spins, and no exaggerated promises. Instead, they focused on qualities riders have been demanding for years: reliability on long tours, steady cooling under heat, smooth balance during low-speed maneuvers, and comfort that survives days rather than minutes. They referenced real test routes, not hypothetical scenarios. They spoke directly to concerns riders have shared about modern heavyweight tourers across several brands, especially those related to fatigue, vibration, and sustained high-temperature operation. What stood out most was the tone. Honda did not claim they were chasing spectacle. They said the new Goldwing was built for riders who rack up thousands of miles every season, the kind who judge a machine by its behavior during the 10th hour on the road rather than the first minute in a showroom. Their engineers made it clear that this bike was shaped around experience, not trends. Some observers noted that Honda never once mentioned competing brands by name, yet every sentence carried the weight of comparison. They did not need to point toward Milwaukee. Every rider in the room already understood the implications. The Goldwing was not designed to join the touring conversation. It was designed to lead it. And inside Harley's headquarters, that message was heard immediately. If you're following this shift and want more breakdowns that cut through the noise, make sure you like the video and subscribe. And tell us what this moment says to you as a long-distance rider. Your perspective helps shape every upcoming report. The pressure building inside Milwaukee. In the days following the reveal, internal discussions inside Harley-Davidson turned tense. Reports circulated describing shifting demographics, aging riders, and a tightening touring market. While the brand still carried immense cultural influence, the data showed a narrowing customer base and growing pressure to modernize without alienating loyal owners. The timing of Honda's move struck directly at Harley's most valuable territory, long-distance touring machines that define the company's identity and sustain much of its revenue. Executives reviewed footage of the Goldwing reveal and examined early specifications with frank concern. Harley had always relied on the emotional pull of its touring line, but Honda's presentation was built on practical confidence, heat control, stability, and endurance. These were areas where Harley had been questioned by riders for years, and now a competitor had stepped into the spotlight, offering solutions instead of traditions. Inside product planning meetings, analysts highlighted the risks. Even a modest shift toward Honda could ripple through Harley's ecosystem. Touring models support dealerships, accessory sales, financing programs, and service networks. Losing even a small percentage of those riders could introduce long-term consequences. As video clips spread online and discussions heated up across riding communities, Harley leadership recognized that the landscape had shifted beneath them. The Goldwing was not merely another model release. It was a direct test of Harley's commitment to staying competitive. And dealership floors were the first places where the impact became visible. Take a moment to gear up. Everything you need is linked below in the description. Dealers, hear the rumor. While corporate teams evaluated long-term strategy, dealership staff felt the shock much faster. Phones began ringing with questions from riders who had seen the reveal online. Some callers wanted details about Harley's upcoming touring updates. Others wondered whether the company planned to counter the Goldwing with major improvements of its own. Dealers, who depend on touring models to stay profitable, immediately recognized the pattern. When riders start asking about alternatives, momentum can shift quickly. On showroom floors across the Midwest, sales representatives noticed more visitors bringing up the Goldwing unprompted. These were not impulsive newcomers. They were seasoned riders who understood real touring demands. Many brought up familiar issues: heat buildup in traffic, weight during slow maneuvers, and long day fatigue. The Goldwing announcement made them rethink assumptions they had held for years. Some dealers shared quiet concerns in internal chats. If Honda could deliver a machine that answered long-standing comfort and durability complaints, Harley might need to accelerate planned updates or risk losing ground. Not because riders wanted to abandon the brand, but because they wanted the most capable tool for long miles. Dealers watched the discussion spread across forums and social spaces. The excitement surrounding the new Goldwing was not fueled by hype or novelty. It was driven by practicality. Riders were responding to what Honda actually built, not what marketing departments promised. The Goldwing's engineering message. Honda's engineers stepped onto the EICMA stage with a calm purpose that caught the attention of every seasoned rider. Instead of leaning on flashy numbers, they explained the newest Goldwing by focusing on the challenges that pile up after long days on the road. Heat control mattered first, because no rider wants to feel their legs roasting in summer traffic. Predictable power delivery came next, described not as excitement, but as safety, since smooth torque prevents surprises during highway passing. They spoke with the confidence of a team that spent years refining a machine built for endurance instead of applause. Their message emphasized fatigue reduction and stability, two qualities that mean more to touring riders than any single spec sheet figure. Honda engineers explained how reducing subtle vibrations can save a rider's shoulders by dusk, and how a stiffened chassis decreases the need for constant micro corrections over uneven pavement. The presentation felt directed toward riders who judge motorcycles by how their bodies feel after 8 hours, not by how they look parked at a rally. The language was humble but unmistakably assertive. Honda no longer framed the Goldwing as a polite alternative to American touring machines. They framed it as a direct competitor, ready to take the crown by addressing the complaints riders have voiced for years. Early riders would soon reveal whether Honda's confident claims held up in real miles. Early test riders speak the truth. When the first group of riders swung a leg over the newest Goldwing, they were not tourists or casual reviewers. These were veterans who had crossed states in every EICMA season and understood how a motorcycle behaves after real mileage. Their first impressions formed quickly. The bike remained planted during crosswinds that usually unsettle heavyweight touring machines. On the California test loop, several riders commented that the machine felt more cooperative than expected, responding to low-speed inputs with a calm balance that surprised even skeptics. By midday, these riders began noting something more subtle. Long-distance comfort seemed improved in ways they had rarely experienced outside the highest tiers of past touring legends. Fatigue arrived later than usual, and some mentioned that their shoulders felt noticeably fresher by the end of the day. None of these reactions came from casual observers. They came from individuals who measure bikes not by excitement, but by how their bodies feel when the sun begins to fall during a multi-state ride. What struck them most was the refinement. The Goldwing behaved like a machine tuned for consistency rather than spectacle, providing predictable response on every stretch of road. Those early reports created a quiet tension among Harley's engineering teams, preparing for an inevitable comparison. Harley's engineering dilemma. Inside Harley's testing facilities, engineers monitored the early feedback with a mix of respect and unease. They knew the Milwaukee 8 remained a capable engine, but they also understood its limitations. Heat buildup during slow traffic had been a persistent complaint, and the overall weight of the platform continued to challenge low-speed handling. These issues were never catastrophic, but they reflected an architecture shaped by tradition rather than modern engineering freedom. Honda's refinements only magnified the contrast. As the comparisons rolled in, Harley engineers recognized a deeper truth. Riders who once tolerated those compromises no longer had to. The Goldwing showed what continuous evolution could produce, while Harley still needed to balance heritage with innovation. Their powertrain philosophy relied heavily on the sound, feel, and character that built the brand. But that approach limited how far the underlying platform could stretch without major redesigns. They felt the pressure from a competitor unconstrained by the same historical expectations. It was a difficult position. Harley wanted to honor its legacy while pushing into the future, yet the Goldwing demonstrated how far refinement could go when engineers worked with fewer cultural guardrails. Harley's team understood that the comparison was not merely technical, it was philosophical. Outside the engineering rooms, analysts studied the data and saw financial consequences forming even faster than the mechanical ones. The numbers Harley didn't want to see. When industry analysts received the early comparison data, they recognized a ripple forming beneath the surface. Touring bikes represent a foundation of dealership, revenue, and even a small shift in customer loyalty can echo throughout the entire business. Analysts noted that Honda's consistency in manufacturing, combined with the Goldwing's renewed refinement, could tempt riders who previously stayed loyal to Milwaukee for decades. For a company whose identity is deeply tied to touring dominance, this shift was more than symbolic. Pricing stability played an equally large role. Honda could support wider production runs without compromising quality, and that volume allowed them to control costs in ways Harley could not easily match. Buyers considering multi-year ownership saw Honda as a lower-risk investment, especially with the Goldwing's reputation for long-term reliability. Analysts ran forecasts showing that even a modest migration of customers could reduce Harley's accessory sales, service income, and dealership leverage. The projections were sobering. The more competitive the Goldwing became, the more pressure it placed on Harley's financial core. Analysts emphasized that this was not a collapse scenario, but a warning. Small changes today could compound into major consequences over the next several years, especially if the touring landscape continued shifting. And with Honda's manufacturing strength behind the Goldwing, those projections carried real and immediate weight. A supply chain built for war. Honda's manufacturing teams have long seen the touring market as a proving ground, and the newest Goldwing demonstrates the depth of that commitment. At the Kumamoto plant, production lines move with a rhythm that reflects decades of refinement. Each station is designed to minimize delays, reduce defects, and maintain a steady flow across global markets. Riders often judge reliability by what happens on the highway, but true dependability begins inside the factory. When a company can build at scale without sacrificing precision, bikes arrive exactly when dealers expect them, and exactly how engineers intended. This supply chain strength gives Honda more than logistical efficiency. It offers leverage in the marketplace. Predictable output means fewer wait times and less opportunity for dealers to inflate prices during high-demand seasons. For riders who save for months or years before making a purchase, that predictability matters. Harley has its own strengths, yet its supply chain has not maintained the same rhythm in recent years, leaving some dealers struggling to manage demand for touring models. Honda's ability to deliver consistent volume becomes a force multiplier. When a Goldwing gains momentum, production can escalate without compromising quality control. That capability signals a manufacturer prepared for long-term competition rather than temporary advantage. Harley dealers, watching this from the sidelines, feel the pressure growing by the month. Harley dealers feeling the pinch. Across the United States, Harley dealership owners find themselves navigating an increasingly delicate balance. Touring models remain their financial backbone, the machines that keep showrooms alive when interest in other categories softens. When the newest Goldwing entered the spotlight, some dealers immediately sensed the shift. They saw fewer early inquiries for upcoming touring releases, and they noticed more riders walking in with questions that hinted at comparison rather than commitment. These small signals add up quickly. Dealers know that even a slight change in foot traffic can alter quarterly performance, especially during periods when promotional incentives are necessary to move slower models. Inventory risk grows when demand softens, because unsold touring bikes can sit for weeks, tying up capital and reducing flexibility for future orders. The fear is not a collapse. It is a slow erosion, the kind that quietly drains stability. Owners of multi-generational dealerships speak privately about the challenge of maintaining enthusiasm among longtime customers, who now research alternatives with genuine curiosity. A powerful Goldwing cycle could steer enough buyers away to reshape entire seasons of sales. What once felt like rivalry now feels like a threat to foundational revenue. And the rider conversations unfolding online reveal exactly why dealers are concerned. If you want to stay ahead of the next moves shaping the touring world, now is the time to subscribe. Every update we bring is designed to keep real riders informed before the headlines land. Stay connected and never miss what comes next. Rider loyalty starts to waver. Among experienced touring riders, a subtle shift has begun to spread through conversations at meetups, fuel stops, and long-standing online forums. These riders still admire the heritage and culture Harley built over generations, but many openly acknowledge the practical appeal of the newest Goldwing. Comfort, dependability, and longevity matter deeply to those who routinely log 1,000-mile weeks. For them, the question turns from loyalty to survival on the road. In private groups and parking lot discussions, riders talk about hips that ache after long days, hands that tire from vibration, and the cost of maintaining machines through cross-country seasons. Some explain that while a Harley remains their emotional favorite, the Goldwing feels more forgiving during extended trips. This difference creates a growing acceptance of dual garage setups, one bike for spirit and another for endurance. The shift is not loud or defiant. It is practical. Riders who once dismissed the idea of owning anything other than a Harley now weigh the miles more carefully. They think about their backs, their budgets, and the years ahead. This quiet reconsideration holds more power than open rebellion, because it reflects thoughtful experience instead of trend chasing. Harley leadership recognizes the signals and has already begun preparing its response. Harley's calculated countermove. Inside Harley's strategic planning rooms, teams study the touring landscape with renewed urgency. The newest Goldwing did not simply demonstrate refinement. It raised the expectations surrounding comfort, heat management, and long-term structural stability. Harley's planners know they must answer these challenges not with quick patches, but with foundational improvements. Early development notes point toward enhanced cooling strategies, stronger frame integration, improved seating ergonomics, and broader platform updates designed to restore confidence in the touring lineup. The company understands that riders do not need theatrics. They need a machine that respects the miles ahead. Harley's counter strategy aims to evolve without abandoning the spirit that built the brand. Engineers are tasked with preserving the unmistakable feel of a Harley while reducing fatigue, lowering heat, and tightening overall stability. These changes signal a shift from reactive updates to deliberate reinvention. This planning phase will determine whether Harley can reclaim ground in a segment it once dominated effortlessly. The competition is no longer symbolic, it is technical and measurable. Honda raised the bar, and Harley intends to meet it with precision rather than nostalgia. The road ahead will test both companies, and the effects of this competition will soon stretch far beyond the borders of the United States. The worldwide touring shift. Honda's new Goldwing immediately changed the mood across global touring markets. Riders outside the United States already leaned toward the model for its record of longevity, and the latest version strengthened that trust. Across Europe, Australia, and parts of Asia, the long-haul community values predictability above branding. And the updated platform signaled that Honda intended to hold that ground for years. In regions where highway distances stretch across open plains or coastal networks, dependable comfort is the deciding factor. The new design reinforced Honda's reputation for marriages of refinement and discipline rather than theatrics. Countries with dense travel culture, such as those in Central Europe, see thousands of touring machines cross borders throughout the riding season. These riders often choose the machine that stays cool under load, remains stable in wind, and keeps maintenance simple. For them, the Goldwing's newest evolution aligned with their priorities. That global confidence builds momentum that influences every market, including the United States. Harley understands that global relevance affects domestic confidence. If the world sees Honda defining modern touring, American riders eventually notice. The latest Goldwing makes that shift difficult to ignore, especially when its strengths align with what real riders ask for. The curiosity gap points to a deeper reality shaping international markets. Regulators may tip the scales. Regulators in Washington and Brussels shape motorcycle futures more than most riders would like. Their standards create the framework within which every manufacturer must operate, and they seldom relax once new rules are set. The latest Goldwing meets these evolving demands without drama, positioning it as a secure long-term purchase. Riders who worry about upcoming restrictions simply feel safer choosing a machine already built to comply. Honda did not design the model for regulators, but the alignment is undeniable. American touring platforms, especially heavier ones, face additional scrutiny. As noise and emissions limits tighten, each model year requires careful balancing of performance, heat output, and mechanical character. These are not impossible challenges, yet they raise costs in a world already strained by inflation. Manufacturers must invest more engineering hours, more testing cycles, and more cooling strategies to meet rules that grow tougher each year. The Goldwing's newest architecture handles those demands with measured efficiency. For Harley, this means additional pressure to modernize faster than planned. Riders may not follow every regulatory detail, but they notice when compliance affects price, heat, and performance on real roads. When one machine adapts easily and another must fight its way across each new threshold, markets respond with either patience or growing frustration. Over time, those reactions shape resale value, rider confidence, and the broader direction of the touring segment itself for riders on long journeys ahead each season. The curiosity gap leads to how those regulations reach household budgets. The financial reality for riders. Riders across the United States now face a financial landscape far different from earlier decades. Maintenance costs rise steadily, insurance premiums fluctuate, and parts availability is no longer guaranteed for every model. In this environment, long-term reliability becomes more than a talking point. It becomes a financial shield. The Goldwing is well known for lasting beyond typical expectations, which makes it appealing to riders who balance passion with household responsibilities. Touring riders often manage substantial mileage each year, and that usage exposes the true cost of ownership. A machine that demands fewer repairs or offers longer service intervals eases the strain on budgets already stretched by fuel prices and living costs. When the latest Goldwing entered the scene with claims of lower fatigue and steady performance over long distances, many riders recognized a platform that could deliver value without compromising comfort. Harley remains strong in culture and identity, yet it must justify premium pricing without leaning solely on loyalty or nostalgia. Riders respect heritage, but they also measure total cost across years of real travel, factoring in maintenance, comfort, and long-term dependability. When one machine protects the wallet, while another introduces uncertainty, the decision naturally becomes practical rather than emotional, especially for riders who put serious miles on the clock each season. The shifting economy forces every household to think carefully. And a touring motorcycle now must prove its value through consistency, not just tradition, branding, or the promise of legacy. The curiosity gap shifts towards something larger than money alone. What this means for the spirit of American riding. The new Goldwing did more than challenge a category. It forced the American touring community to reflect on identity. Harley represents history, rebellion, and the sound of open road freedom. Honda represents refinement, durability, and engineering discipline. Touring riders today do not reject heritage, yet they now face a question their predecessors seldom considered. Should long-distance comfort take priority over tradition, or should the machine speak first to the heart? Some riders respond by keeping two machines in the garage, one for soul and one for miles. Others shift entirely toward practicality after years of battling heat, weight, or limited range. Neither path betrays tradition. Instead, it expands what American riding can mean. The Goldwing's arrival is not an attempt to erase Harley's legacy. It is a reminder that growth often begins with discomfort. The next chapter of American touring may blend both philosophies, creating machines that honor character while embracing refinement. Riders will decide which direction prevails, and manufacturers will follow their lead with careful attention to what real long-distance riders value. What matters most is that the conversation has begun, and it will shape every mile ahead as new expectations settle into the culture. This moment marks a turning point where tradition meets engineering discipline, giving riders a broader horizon than ever before. In the end, the final transition is the quiet recognition that the road always decides, reminding every rider that the truth of a machine is revealed only through time, miles, and the steady rhythm of honest travel each day. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Honda or Harley. It's about the future of real touring motorcycles and whether the machines we trust for 1,000-mile weeks are getting better or drifting further from what riders actually need. Honda just threw down a challenge, and now it's on Milwaukee to answer it with something worthy of the road. I want to hear from the riders who've lived this life. Drop a comment with your take. Hit that like button if this helped you out, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep